All right, it appears I am live. Hi, everyone. I'm Marianne, and welcome to this live broadcast of Fix Your Finances. So anyone who had expressed interest in this and then the event disappeared, I apologize. It's a fairly new platform for me, so I've been playing around with how to make it work most effectively. So I ended up deleting and restarting the event a few times. Anyway, hi everyone, I'm Marianne. I'm a licensed insolvency trustee with Allen Marshall and Associates, and I'm also known as Dr. Debt. That's my little character right up there in the corner. And so this is a live interactive broadcast. So if you're popping in live, you're going to want to have a pen and paper. And I'm going to walk you through a series of questions that will help you look at your financial situation and determine what you can do to make it better. So I am going to get this started. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm thinking I probably should have had my headphones in so you don't hear beeps, but it's too late for that. So this will be the first run, and I will definitely do this again. So we might be working out a few little kinks tonight. Bear with me. And if you're joining in, just say hello and post a comment so that I can see that this is actually working. And just give me a moment. I'm actually going to bring that up on my other screen if I can figure it out, which I'm not entirely sure I can. Okay. Anyway, we will figure all this out as we go. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Excuse me. And let's see if I can do this. Window. Okay. Well, we're off to a good start. So I want to share a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if this is going to work. All right. Well, let's just see what happens. Yeah, no, that is not what I want to share. So we are going to stop screen share, and we are going to try this again. So I want this. And let's see if I get this figured out. And apparently I don't know how to, oh, there we go. I found it. Okay, so share. All right. Okay, so my screen is sharing, although I don't know if I'm showing up there still or not because now I can't see my other screen. So let's see. All right, here we go. Thank you for your patience while I work out some of the kinks. And I'm going to get rid of that banner. So that's good to know because that's taken up too much space. So let's hide that. Okay. And all right. Hey, sorry about the little bit of housekeeping stuff I'm having to do here to get this to work. I do have to get this up on my other screen. So I'm going to do that right now. And I think this is going to work. It is. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. First time doing a screen share using this platform, so I had to make sure it's working. All right. So we're going to do Fix Your Finances. So this presentation is interactive. You are going to want to have a pen and paper ready so that you can record your answers to the questions. And I just realized why they were telling me that I needed to have two screens, because I need to be able to switch my presentation. So let's do that. Yep, well, that didn't work at all. All right, I will get this working. So bear with me. This is the fun part of a live presentation. It either works perfectly or it doesn't work perfectly. And this one's not working perfectly. But if you just bear with me, I will get it working. All right, so let's see now if I've got this working. All right. Okay. If anybody is still with me, thank you. And let's go back and get rid of my name off of here because it's taking up too much space. So, all right, I'm getting there, folks. Just have a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's okay. You need to get ready. You need to have a pen and paper ready because I'm going to walk you through 9 questions, things you want to ask yourself to fix your finances. And so it is interactive. It's going to be a little bit of a quiz. It's your own quiz. You don't have to share your responses. And okay, I think we're good. I think the screen is shared now. There we go. Okay, perfect. So I just need to be able to flip through the screen. How am I going to do that? Okay, all right. Let's get this party started, shall we? Fix your finances. How solid are your money management skills? Take the test to find out. So a little bit about me. I am, just so you know who you're talking to, this isn't about me, it's about you. However, I thought you might like to know who's putting this on if you don't know me personally. So I'm a licensed insolvency trustee with Allen Marshall and Associates. And basically that's our fancy new name for trustee in bankruptcy. It was changed a while ago because we do way more than bankruptcies. And I've been in the bankruptcy industry since 1988. So I was 10, just kidding. And so I've been in it for a long time. And basically, I help people every day who are struggling with some kind of financial difficulty. And I'm also known as Dr. Debt. And I'm a huge advocate for financial literacy. So during the day, I'm an insolvency trustee, Allen Marshalls, and then I kind of joke and say, in the evening, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the evening. I'm also known as Dr. Debt, and you'll find me on various social media platforms, basically helping people with tips, tricks, and techniques on how they can have happier, healthier finances, because that's really important to me. And one thing that I've noticed in my line of business is that there are so many things that there's just so many little things that we are taught. We're never taught how to manage our money. We're just thrown out in the world. We're expected to figure out as we go along. And some people do, and some people don't. Many people don't, and they experience some real financial hardship. So I'm going to share with you a process that I use as part of my counseling with my clients, with people who come to see me. And I'm going to share that with all of you because I think it's a tool that everybody can use. So if you're looking for me on social media, I'm under Dr. Debt Canada on Facebook and Dr. Debt NS on Twitter. That's where you'll find me there. And my personal blog site is drdebt.ca. All right, so grab a pen and paper and let's get started. Are you ready? And if you're listening to the replay, you can do this in the replay, and then you can just post your comments and I will get back to you. So this is the link that you need in order to get the questionnaire if you want to have a physical copy in front of you. So I'm going to copy that, I think. If I can do it here. Copy. Yeah, that worked really well. And I'm going to attempt to post this in the comments section. Again, this is new for me. Please bear with me as I try some new things. All right. So, yeah, and that didn't work. Okay. So, one more moment and I'll get this for you. I had it all figured out just before I started. I don't know what happened. It went away. All right, just bear with me here. I wonder if I'm showing my whole screen. I hope you're not watching what I'm doing because that wouldn't be very fun for you. So I think we're okay. And I think you're not seeing this boring stuff that I'm doing. And I'm going to go grab that link right now and get that for you as soon as I find it. Where did it go? We need today's date. There it is. Quick edit. And yeah, I'm getting there. Hang on. Here we go. All right. So we are going to copy this and we're going to go back in here and we're going to post it. And I'm going to hope that this works. All right. So I put the comment in. And everybody should have access to that now. So hopefully you can go and click on that and get the questionnaire if you want to. You don't have to. You can just follow along with me with the slides if you would prefer to do that. And I'm going to set that up so I can do the slides. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I'm going to start. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a process and I'm going to ask you some questions and you're going to rate yourself. And I'm going to give you some tips and techniques as we go through each one. And then we'll do a summary at the end and I'll give you some more, but you're going to get some ideas of what I'm talking about as I go through. And you're going to pick up some tips as I go through. And I love it if you would say hi, just so I know who's watching. And if you have any questions, just post them in the chat and I will see those on Facebook. And I am not entirely sure how that works on YouTube. But if you post a comment, I will hopefully see it there. All right, are you ready? So how would you rate your money management skills overall? This is just your beginning point. This is just an overall rating. And so what I want you to do is rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is poor, 10 is great. Where would you put yourself on that scale? I'm going to give you a minute to think about it, but I don't want you to think too hard. I want you to use your impulse, and I want you to put pick the first number that comes to mind. Okay, got it? All right, so this is not going to be part of your overall score. It's just your beginning measurement. But now I'm going to change the question slightly, and I want to know if this changes your answer. So I didn't ask you if you had enough money to manage it properly. I asked how you would rate your money management skills overall. So look at where you put yourself. And my next qualifying question is, what would it take for you to put yourself up on the 8, 9, 10 range if you haven't put yourself there already? So wherever you are, what would it take for you to move yourself up on the scale? And if your answer is, if I had more money, then you're not giving yourself a fair rating. And the way that I would explain that, and it's a bit tongue in cheek, is that I used to jokingly say, I'm a great money manager. I know exactly how broke I am on any given day. And I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but it was pretty close to the truth. There was truth in it because I was struggling financially. And when I go through this questionnaire with you, I would not have been answering the questions I'm going to go through with you very high, simply because of my current financial situation, and I wasn't able to. So this is, again, just to get it's just kind of a temperature. So where would you put yourself overall? And then this is your measurement as you go through some of the processes and the steps that I'm going to share, and and hopefully turn that around, turn those finances around. All right. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual money management questionnaire, quiz, test, whatever you want to call it. So you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 for the next 9 questions. 1 is never, 5 is always, or somewhere in between. And I'm going to have these on each of the questions, so you don't have to remember that. And again, if you go into comments, I've put the link on where you can download the questionnaire so that you can have a physical copy in front of you if you'd like. This is my first time doing this. I'm working out some kinks, so I appreciate anyone who's on here interacting. I would love your feedback. I will fine-tune this process, and I will do this again. And sorry, excuse me, and hopefully have some of the kinks worked out at that time. Okay, here we go. You ready? Get your pen, get your paper, write it down. You're going to want to total these up at the end. So number 1, start the month with a spending plan? Do you start the month with a spending plan? So what I mean by that, so I'm going to qualify, and you just go ahead and answer while I'm talking. If you know the answer to that question, you put it in. If it's always, put it in. If I never do it, put in a 1. If you're not sure, pick somewhere in between. I'm going to qualify the question a little bit so you know what I'm saying, and you might change your answer, and that's okay, because this is all part of the process. So start the month with a spending plan just means that you sit down and you plan what you are going to do with your money for the next month. And there's lots of different ways that people do that. We're going to dig deep into the finer points of that. But basically, this just means you have some kind of a plan for the month ahead. So it could be that you use a calendar method and you just put when things are due on the calendar. That's part of a plan. It could be that you have, an actual budget or an Excel spreadsheet or something that you follow. You could have a notebook and you just write down, okay, how much is my next paycheck and where does that need to go? So these are some of the ways that you can do that. So if you start the month with a spending plan, you always sit down and figure out what you're doing with your money. Give yourself a 5. I'm going to take the test with you. And so I'm going to give myself, I'm writing 1 to 9 on my piece of paper. So you would want to do the same if you didn't download the template. And as we go through each one, you're going to give yourself an answer. And at the very end, I'll do a recap. So if you missed anything, don't worry. I'll do a recap and you can plug your number in and still get your total. All right, start the month with a spending plan, 1 to 5. Hopefully everyone has that. Track my expenses. All right, so do you track your expenses? Again, 1 is never, 5 is always, somewhere in between. Now, let's talk about this one, because tracking your expenses does not necessarily mean you look at your bank account. If you look at your bank account and you know what your balance is and you know what's going in or coming out, that's a good thing. I encourage that. But tracking my expenses really means that you know what you spent on groceries last month, or on gas, or on pet food, or on coffee. So again, there's lots of ways that you can track. If you use a credit card for everything and it gives you the total for categories, that's a valid way to track, and you would have the information there. If you keep your receipts and then you total them up at the end of the month, that's a valid way to track. So whatever method you use doesn't matter. The question is, do you track your expenses in some way, shape, or form? So if it's never, 1, 5 for always, or somewhere in between. All right, number 3, examine my expenses to see where I might be able to cut costs. So it's lovely if you track your expenses. Oh, I didn't give myself my score for number 2. So it's wonderful if you track your expenses. However, we want you to make use of the information that you are gathering so that you can make some good decisions. And so you need the information to make the decisions, right? So that's part of the tracking. So if you track, that's a good thing. This is just the next level. It's the next piece. So this is where you look at, okay, where is my money going and what can I do to cut back? So for example, let's say you track your groceries. And so you know that on average you're spending, because it's going to fluctuate, right? So you're spending $600-700 a month. It's going up, down, but it's around the 600 or 700. And so part of it might be, what can I do to cut back on groceries? Or you find yourself going to Tim Hortons or Starbucks a lot, right? So you go, I'm going to track what I spend there. And then, okay, what can I do to cut back? So it means you look at all your different expenses to see where you may be able to cut costs. Now, you notice I didn't mention shop around for insurance, cut back on my cell phone bill. Those are also ways to do it. In fact, they're usually level 1. That's usually the first way that we look at whether or not we can cut back on our expenses, is we look at the bigger pieces and cutting back on those first. So level 1 of cutting back is kind of your fixed stuff that you can make changes to your program or your service or something like that. And then level 2 is usually the spending money, and it's what you can the little things that you can do to cut back. All right, so you got number 3. So you look at your expenses to see where you might be able to cut costs. How am I going to answer this one? Okay, I got my answer. All right, so you ready for number 4? So there's only 9. We're halfway through, sort of, kind of. So number 4 is set aside money for annual expenses. Now you're going to see that I've broken this one out in a moment. And so annual expenses are things that come up once a year. It shouldn't even say annual. It should say occasional expenses. I'm going to change that. Note to self, change annual to occasional. I write these brief little notes, and then I go back and look in their shorthand, and I'm like, I have no idea what I wrote. So set aside money for annual expenses or occasional expenses. So again, that would be things like Christmas. Do you plan for Christmas? Now, again, there's variations. So you might set aside the money and then do all your Christmas shopping in, November, December, or you might buy gifts throughout the year. That's a perfectly acceptable yes to this question. And property taxes, same thing. So my property taxes come annually, but I pay them every month. So I don't set the money aside. I just put it in as a bill payment. I pay it every month. Income tax is another example. What would be some other, think dentists could be another one, for example. So do you set aside money for annual expenses or things that come up occasionally, the things that are not monthly, pretty much? Okay, so 1 for never, 5 for always. And what is your answer on that? And I'm going to put my answer in it, and I'll explain it. Well, I'll share my answers when I get to the end. Okay, so number 5, on the same line of thinking, do you set aside money for emergencies? And again, emergencies is a loose term, but what I'm talking about are, vehicle repairs and vet costs and loss of income and really, I say emergencies, but a true emergency to me is something you don't expect that comes up that throws everything off track. So loss of income is a good example of that. Or, the rear end falls out of your car. We might not expect that. Other things are anticipated emergencies. Now, they can fall into this category. They can be the previous question, but that would be tires for your car. You need to get tires for your car every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever works for you. Really, that should be a planned expense, and you should know how much it is, and you should set the money aside. And what would be another one? Well, any home maintenance. I mean, if you have a house, stuff's going to happen. So you're going to need to replace the water heater, and you're going to need to, pump the septic, and you're going to need to paint or stain or, repair the deck. Heaven forbid if you need to do that right now, which we do, and it's not happening because the price of deck boards is crazy. But so to me, they're not emergencies. They would fall in the other category, but it's okay. If you put them here, it's fine. So set aside money for emergencies. 1 to 5. So basically, if you have an emergency fund and you put money aside, it's going to be always. If you are frustrated because you put money into your emergency fund and then you need to use it and there's none there, you're still setting money aside. So I just want to also differentiate that. So do you set aside money for emergencies on a consistent basis? That's the question. And I know what I'm going to give myself for that one. All right. Okay, here we go. Number 6, decide what I need to buy and how much I can spend before I make a purchase. Now, this is very close to the next question. So again, I'm going to explain it. So decide what I need to buy and how much I can spend before I make a purchase. So that just means you give consideration to something before you spend money on it. So again, for example, tires. You need tires for your car. What's your buying process? Do you look at how much money did I set aside to spend on tires? And then you look to buy something in that range. Or do you just go, well, I need tires, so I'm just going to get it. Doesn't matter how much it is. Do you shop around? So do you look at, okay, I can get them from Canadian Tire, or I can get them from the Tire Man. Love the Tire Man, by the way. Or I can get them off Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace. I can shop for gently used, right? So basically, do you just go out and buy whatever you need without giving consideration to the cost? Or do you look at the cost and how much money you have and what you can afford? So that's kind of how you'd answer that. So if you do decide what you need to buy and how much you can spend, always it's 5. If you do it sometimes, it's a 3. If you never do it, it's a 1, or somewhere in between. I'm hesitating on this because it depends on the thing that you're spending money on. So I know what I'm going to give myself. And again, I'll share that when we get to the end. All right, we're almost at the end. Number 7, avoid impulse spending. Do you avoid impulse spending? 1 is for never. By the way, if you're answering these, I would love to hear your comments. So please post them in the comment section so I can see them if you want to share. So avoid impulse spending. 1 is never, 5 is always, or somewhere in between. All right, 2 more. 8, meet monthly expenses with existing income. All right, there's another trick to this question. So meet monthly expenses with existing income means that everything's up to date, nothing's behind. So if that's true, then you know you're on the high end of this. However, here's the trick. If you're using credit to bridge the gap, to make up the difference, to cover what you don't have in income, you're not doing this. So if you spend more than you make, you are not meeting monthly expenses with existing income. And the way that you know if you're spending more than you make is that your credit card or line of credit balances are increasing. If they are staying the same or going down, then you're not spending more than you make. Okay, so a little bit of a trick question. So are things up to date? And is your credit not increasing? Basically would put you into that kind of higher always side. So, all right, I have to be honest on that one. I've been honest on them all. All right, we're at number 9. You ready? So number 9, discuss financial issues with my partner if applicable. So this question on our sheet actually says to discuss financial issues with others in my household, but I changed it because some people live with their parents or their siblings, and they're like, I don't really talk to them. And I said, you don't need to. So really it's with your partner. It could be with your kids too. I didn't put that in here, but depending on the age of your kids, it could be with your kids. And discuss financial issues is a pretty broad term because we discuss it in different ways. So some people might sit down and lay out the financial stuff and the bills, and they might look at it together and make decisions that way. And it might be all very cordial and there's no yelling. That could be the way some people do it. We don't do it that way. Some people will selectively talk about certain things with their partner just because of the way the finances are structured, and they don't share everything because one person handles some things, one person handles the other. That's perfectly okay. That's pretty much my household. And then some will not talk about it at all, right? So 1 is never, 5 is always, regardless of the degree of which you talk about it, and then somewhere in between. Okay. All right. So by now you should have 9 questions and 9 numbers that you've rated yourself. And so now we are simply going to add those up. So, and anyone popping in late, do not panic. I'm going to bring up a recap slide in a moment. Actually, I'll do that right now, just so if anybody came in the middle, they can catch up to us. And then I'll go back. So this is a summary of the questionnaire. So if you missed anything, I'm going to go through them all. You'll have to answer them really quickly if you're just popping in, or if you missed one, then you can fill in the answer. All right, so you're going to have 9 questions. And number 1, you start the month with a spending plan. 1 is never, 5 is always, or somewhere in between. So give yourself a number for that. Number 2, you track your expenses. Again, 1 to 5. 1 is never, 5 is always. Do you track your expenses? Give yourself a number for that. Look at expenses to see where you might be able to cut costs. 1 to 5. Set aside money for yearly expenses or occasional expenses or things that come up that aren't monthly, they come up sporadically. 1 to 5. Set aside money for emergencies. Do you have an emergency fund? 1 is never, 5 is always, or somewhere in between. Decide what you need to buy and how much money you can spend before you make a purchase. I know I'm going through these quickly. Avoid impulse spending. Meet monthly expenses with existing income. Number 8. And number 9, discuss financial issues with others in the household, also known as your partner. Okay. So you're going to total them up. So I'm going to total mine up. So I have one that I answered in between. So I'm just going to give myself so it was 3 to 4. So I'm just going to give myself a 3.5. And so 3.5. Okay, about half. Okay. So what's your score? If it's 0 to 20, this needs improvement. And I'm going to give you some strategies on what to do. If it's 21 to 30, good job. So, you're doing a good job. If it's 31 to 40, very good. You've got a lot of good money management skills going on. You should celebrate that. That's me, by the way. I was 35.5, so I'm right in the middle of that. And if you're 41 to 45, you have surpassed me, so congratulations. It's always great to surpass a teacher, and it's excellent. So woo woo, party time for you. All right, so here's what you're going to do. So again, this is a process. So the purpose is you just want to get a sense of where you are. And then you want to look at that and you want to do some things to improve your situation. I'm going to share my answers with you as I go through this because I'm all about transparency. I do not have everything together all of the time. You will never hear me say that. I'm very open and honest about where I am financially, and I share that openly with my clients. So start the month with a spending plan. I gave myself a 5. There is something happening out there in the hallway, so I apologize for the background noise. I guess they must be cleaning. Note to self, don't do this at a time when they're cleaning. All right, so I gave myself a 5 for that. I have an Excel spreadsheet prepared for the month. I get paid 2 times a month. I have it broken down by both pays. I've done it long enough that it's a standard form now. And I just go in and tweak it before the next month with any changes. I just make a note of them on the paper, and then I go in and I tweak it, and I'm ready for the next month. So I'm very good at that. But it took me a long time to find a system that worked, and so now it does. Track your expenses. Oh, and sorry, before I continue on, because I'm sharing my results with you in hopes that will help you as you figure out your results. And if anybody's popping on late to this, we're doing the recap and all the questions are here, so you can catch up pretty quickly. You'll just take the test, you'll total up the answers from this section, and you'll see where you are here. So here's your strategy. Once you complete this, so remember this top part was just to get an overall rating. You're not going to include that in your total. That's just for you. It's just so you get a gauge of where you think you are. And then sometimes people will do this and they'll change where they thought they were. You're going to focus on the 1s and 2s. So once you're done, any 1s and 2s, they are the ones that you want to pull out and you want to look at them and you want to figure out what you can do to improve those. Those are going to be your target. And then you're going to take your 3s and you're going to figure out what you need to do just to tweak them a little bit, because these are things you're already doing, to move them to a 4 or 5. That's your strategy. That's your game plan. So I don't have any 1s or 2s, and I'm not bragging. I'm just sharing because I've had 1s and 2s, and it took me a lot of years to get those numbers up. And so I'm celebrating that because I worked hard at doing that. It took many, many years, and I had a very stressful time for many years. So I gave myself a 5 for number 1. I gave myself a 5 for number 2. Number 3, I gave myself a 3. So look at expenses to see where you might be able to cut costs. I've done that a lot. So sometimes what will happen is you'll answer a lower number because you've already done it as much as you can. And there's not as much room to do it. So that's part of why I gave myself a 3. But the other part is you get a little lazy sometimes, and I don't look at my expenses as much. I track them. I have them in an app. I can pull them at any time. Occasionally I do, but I'm not looking at them as closely. In fact, I've developed a slightly different model. I use my friend April Barkhouse's system, her 1 number system. And so I have a 1 number, and that is my money for spending. And I can't spend more than that. And so I don't break it out anymore into like groceries and coffee. And I did that for years, and it was really helpful. But now I just have that 1 amount, and that's what I have to spend unless I use credit. I'll share about that in a second. So, so the number 4, set aside money for yearly expenses. I gave myself a 5, but I do want to say I set aside money for yearly expenses on a consistent basis. I have an occasional expense account. I've identified the things I need to set money aside for. I put it in there every pay, but I don't have enough money in a few categories because I simply do not have enough in my budget. My budget is still tight. So I wanted to share that with you because you could be very strong on an answer, but it still isn't working for you 100%, and that's okay. And that's normal. So, so even though I got a 5, there's room for improvement there. I actually do need more money because I've cut back all my expenses as much as I can. Okay, maybe not completely. There's probably a few things I could cut out completely that I'm not willing to. So. And so number 5, I gave myself a 4 because, again, I do set aside money for these things that come up. I don't really have an emergency fund per se, but that's because I've put almost everything into my occasional expense account. So I'm anticipating everything. I put money away for, wish I'd kept it out. I could have shared it with you. I put money into an eyeglass account. It's only $10 a month. It's going to take me forever to build up what I need, but I do that. I put it into a hair account to get haircuts. I don't get haircuts. I cut my own hair. I've been doing it for years. So you can comment on that and go, you need to go get your hair cut, or good job, whatever you think I need there. And but my kids get their hair cut, and so the fund is for them. I have a kids account. I've had it for years. That is my emergency fund in a way, because those kids are expensive, and I thought they'd get older and it would be better. It's not better, it's worse. So part of that savings is I put money into the kids account, and I do try to stay within the amounts I have in those accounts. It doesn't always work, but I do try to do that. Number 6, decide what you need to buy and how much money you can spend. I gave myself a 3. So this is one of the ones I put myself in the middle. And the reason I put myself in the middle is because I do spend more than I have on occasion. I mean, I do it consciously. I know I'm doing it, and I do use my credit sometimes, and it goes up, and then I have to concentrate on readjusting and paying it down. But for example, I've needed car repairs lately, and they have to be done. And so I just simply do them, and there's not enough money. In fact, my vehicle repair account has been in the negative for about 6 months. I can't get it back in the positive. So that's part of my goal, is what can I do to get my vehicle repair account back into the positive? Where can I redirect funds? How can I get extra money into this? Is there something I can do with the vehicle? I can't really, because I have a payment on it. So, so that was number 5, sorry. Emergencies. Number 6, that was number 6. Decide what you need to buy and how much money you can spend, right? Because I gave myself a 3. So sometimes I just don't. I mean, I kind of do look at it, but sometimes I just don't look because I know I don't have enough money there and I need this item, and I just buy it, or I don't feel like shopping around and I'm somewhere and it's there and I just get it. As an example, I needed a wiper, and normally I will get the cheapest wiper, that I can get, or if I have money in my vehicle repair account, I'll use what's there. In this case, I needed a wiper. I wasn't buying the cheapest one because I'm tired of buying cheap and things don't last. And I already knew I didn't have any money in my vehicle repair account because it's in the negative. So I just bought the wiper I wanted, as an example. I'm only human. All right, number 7, avoid impulse spending. Guess what? What did you answer to that? I'm curious to know. And if you do want to, hi, I have a hello. And if you do want to share, please do. But I will tell you that 80% of people easily answer 3 to number 7. Avoid impulse spending on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is never, 5 is always, 3 is sometimes. Everybody answers a 3. I answered a 3-4, so I gave myself a 3.5 because I'm very good at impulse spending. I try to stay away from places that I know I will impulse spend, but occasionally I just allow myself to do it. And so we all impulse spend, and that's okay. The issue is when you impulse spend and you're using money that you need for other things, and then you don't have that money for other things. That's where the issue comes in. It's for needs. So if you impulse spend and you're taking money away from needs, that's an issue. If you impulse spend and you're taking money away from wants, that's a choice. So you got to look at where you are with that. All right, number 8, meet monthly expenses with existing income. I put a 3 on that one. It might be higher, but again, I will share transparently that I haven't been looking as diligently at my credit card balances lately. And I feel like they're going up, which means I'm spending more than I make. And they're not coming down as quickly as I'd like. And so that's part of my goal, is to get a handle on that again, because I feel like I've fallen off track. And again, I'm sharing this with you because we are human and our systems are not going to work 100% of the time. And I do not want you to beat yourself up if you are having difficulty with something like that. I just want you to be honest with yourself and just go, you know what? I messed up, or I'm not doing as good a job on this as I could be. And then meet yourself where you are and then make the changes that you need to make. So I gave myself a 3. So that's going to be an area that I'm going to tag. See, this is as helpful for me as it is hopefully for you. So number 9, discuss financial issues with others in the household. I gave myself a 4 there. I do handle the finances primarily. And I do try to discuss them with my husband. He's not overly, I always say, he doesn't really care that much as long as he has money for beer, which isn't far from the truth. And, but, we do talk about big decisions. We talk about where we are. I don't go through the nitty gritty of everything with him. Occasionally I give him the budget and he kind of looks at it. And, but, that's my forte. I mean, it just makes sense that I'm going to handle the finances because that's what I do. All right. So, so I was right smack in the middle of the very good range. So that's it. That's pretty much, that's all I wanted to cover in this free live event, is to give you a measurement to look at where you are financially and what steps you can take to fix your finances. And fixing your finances means if they're not good, you want to make them good. If they're good, you want to make them great. Now, this was all about expenses. I didn't talk about income at all. That's a whole nother discussion. If you want to follow me on social media, just go to drdebt.ca, look me up on Twitter, look me up on Facebook. I'm always sharing tips and articles and things for you. I have a radio show on Thursday nights, Money Matters with Marianne. That's always posted on the Dr. Debt Facebook page. Like, I do this because I'm passionate about it. This is not my job. This is not what I get paid to do. I love my job. And I love helping people who are having financial difficulty find solutions. When someone says to me, thank you so much, I was able to sleep last night, or I feel so much lighter, like that means the world to me. But I'm also very passionate about helping you avoid coming to see someone like me. So if I can help you get your ducks in a row and get your finances fixed so that you can avoid having to talk to someone like me, that is a win-win for me as well. So I think that's my last slide. Yeah, it is. All right. So and back. All right. So that's it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some information out of that, and that has helped you. And I really appreciate anyone that popped into this first one. I had to work out some kinks, so I definitely appreciate your patience with that. And I will run this again and do a little more promoting, and so more people are aware of it. And if you liked this, if whether you were here live or on the replay, if you found this useful, I really would appreciate your comments. And, if you could like it, if you could share it so that more people are aware that I'm doing this, so that I can get them notified the next time I run this. Again, it's free and there's no catch and there's nothing being asked at the end. It's just something that I wanted to do because I'm passionate about it. And I picked up a few little tips, and I have a couple points that I need to focus on. So I'm going to take those under advisement, and I'm going to work on those for my spending plan. And I'm going to move my finances on that scale as well, so they move from good to great. And I'll probably share some new tips when I do this again. So if you want to pop in and do it a second time, that'd be awesome. And also it'd be pretty cool for you to look at where you are, right? So if you did it on the scale of 1 to 10, the starting point, and let's say a month from now, you see this pop up, do it again. Take the quiz again with me, hang out again with me, pick up some new tips because you're going to be in a different place at that time. And then you can give yourself a new rating and see where you were. So, all right. So I'm going to just put that link in the chat again. So if you do want to print off that form, that's where it is. You just click on the link and it'll take you to the download page, and you can just download the PDF and you can print it and do it. And it said an error occurred, but I see it posted. Okay. Don't know why. All right. Signing off. Time for me to close up shop for the day. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Marianne, also known as Dr. Det, wishing you happier, healthier finances. Good night, everyone.